Time now to get a business news update, and for that we're joined in studio by Brian Quinn. Brian, it was really down to the wire just before the clock struck midnight. We found a deal was hit between the United States and Canada, keeping that trilateral North American trade deal in place.
Indeed, the last possible second, you would almost say. The North American Free Trade Agreement will become the U.S., Mexico, Canada agreement after more than a year of negotiations to replace the 1994 Trade Pact. As the U.S. reached a separate agreement with Mexico in August, it looked like the Trump administration might leave Canada out of the final deal. Negotiators just barely beating a midnight Sunday deadline to keep the trilateral structure alive. Cole Stangler has the details.
A last-minute deal to save North America's trade pact. Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau emerged from a late-night cabinet meeting to share his take.
Good deal for Canada.
Good day for Canada.
Sunday's agreement puts an end to weeks of uncertainty and high-intensity talks between the U.S. and Canada. The U.S. and Mexico reached a deal in August to revamp NAFTA, but left Canada out. President Donald Trump had threatened to exclude Canada from a final agreement. The 11th-hour deal included concessions on both sides. Canada agreed to ease protections on its dairy market. The U.S., meanwhile, withdrew demands to scrap a controversial tariff dispute settlement system. The agreement also allows for growth in tariff-free auto exports from Canada. Mexico's current president leaves office in December. He'll be replaced by left-wing Andrés Manuel López Obrador. The looming change in leadership had put pressure on negotiators to wrap up the deal. But the new government seemed pleased too. Jesus Seade, trade negotiator for the incoming president, reacted in a tweet.
We celebrate the trilateral deal. The door is closing on trade fragmentation in the region. The deal will give certainty and stability to Mexican trade with its North American partners.
Trade between the three countries is worth more than $1.2 trillion. But Donald Trump has called NAFTA a jobs killer and vowed to bring down U.S. trade deficits. The new trilateral deal will still have to be approved by U.S. Congress.
That's France 24's Cole Stangler there. Well, turning to the markets, European indexes opening mixed as investors look with relief to that U.S.-Canada deal, but with trepidation in the U.K. as Brexit approaches, with those divisions showing at the annual Tory Party conference in Birmingham. London's FTSE 100 opening down 0.5%. The CAC 40 here in Paris right about flat. Frankfurt DAX up around 0.2% at the open. Well, over in Asia, Tokyo's Nikkei index and the Caspian Seoul starting the week out mixed with Chinese markets closed for National Day. The Nikkei closing up over 0.5% at its highest level in 27 years, that despite automaker shares losing ground there. The Kospi just under the flat line. Well, that new NAFTA replacement deal pushing the Canadian dollar upwards on Asian currency markets Monday. It's at a 4-month high, currently around 78 U.S. cents. Earlier, France 24 spoke to Stephen Innes, head of Trading Asia at Awanda, about what traders are looking for in the new deal.
As we know, in any of these type of agreements, the devil is always in the details. So we want to really scrutinize the dairy component because that should be a little bit negative for Canada. But ultimately, it allows traders to focus on the bigger picture, which is the macro. Canada's strong GDP suggests interest rates are going up. Oil prices suggest going higher is also another positive for Canada. So we see the Canadian dollar continue to improve under those narratives.
Well, NAFTA likely won't be the only major trade negotiations to go right down to the wire, as we saw in a previous report. That, according to UK's former Brexit Minister David Davis, who resigned from Theresa May's government in July over the Chequers plan that would see the UK adopt a, quote, common rule book with the EU over trade policy. Davis says he thinks Britain will avoid crashing out of the EU without a deal in place, but that it will be close. Speaking to Sky News on Sunday, he said May's current plan would not satisfy British voters' expectations for Brexit, that the final exit agreement would likely resemble a free trade deal. Here he is.
Yeah, I think there will be a deal. I think it's 80–90% likely there'll be a deal. And I think actually the deal will end up as something like what Boris calls Super Canada, what somebody else called Free Trade Plus, basically a free trade-based deal. But we're going to have a very scary few months. Between now and about November, it's going to be really scary. Everybody's going to be calling each other's bluff. There's all sorts of brinkmanship going to go on. That's normal. That's the European Union, daily bread,
Well, finally, for business, a busy weekend for Tesla's Elon Musk. On Saturday, he reached a deal with U.S. financial regulators that will see him pay a $20 million fine and step down as Tesla's chairman while staying on as CEO. That a consequence of his August tweet claiming he had secured funding to take the electric car maker private at $420 per share. Well, on Sunday, another crucible, the end of the third quarter, with Tesla in a mad dash to deliver as many of its mass-market Model 3 sedans as possible. Many Model 3 buyers have been waiting months for delivery as the company struggled with production bottlenecks. Current estimates for the third quarter deliveries are at 52,000 units. That is nearly triple that of the second quarter, so a pretty good mark for that on the third quarter for Tesla. We'll see how it works out going forward, Eve.
Okay, Brian, thanks a lot for that business update. Brian Quinn reporting for us there.